Secrets from a Coach. Thrive and maximise your potential in the evolving workplace. Your weekly podcast with Debbie Green of Wishfish and Laura Thompson-Staveley of Phenomenal Training. Debs.
Law, you all right?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm not too bad. Always looking on the bright side of life. Well, you know what we have to look at, Law, when things are challenging and testing and pushing us?
Smile and wave.
Smile and wave.
Smile and
wave.
Now, Deb's got a question for you.
Oh,
So,
go on then.
is it me? Is it a sign of getting old when you think, my God, there's a lot of stuff going on? And there seems to be not a week that goes by when there's not some kind of setback or obstacle, or someone's had this thing happen to them. Is that a sign of getting old, Debs? That actually keeping yourself chipper and firing yourself up? And we'll talk a bit in a moment about what it means, but keeping yourself optimism seems to be the older I've got, the tougher it is to keep that going. Is that a sign of age? Is it just me?
Well, first of all, you're not alone, Law, and I don't believe it's a sign of age. I think it can happen to anyone, any age, depending. And if we think back to a workshop we were doing where we were sort of measuring people's levels of optimism as part of a program we were running, and we were working with particularly the late 20s, early 30s group, we were really amazed that their optimism levels were really quite low for somebody at the beginning of their career, just starting out, having good salary, good job, but the optimism was really low. And when we questioned them about it, it was like they couldn't see a future, and it was hard, and the world around them was hard, and the world is all going to crap, and how do we stop global warming? And it was just a barrage of stuff that they were really worried about.
How old were these people, Debs?
So probably average 28, 29-year-olds.
So that's your Gen Z, is that what it's called?
Gen Z, our Gen Z population. Yeah, so it was fascinating because I didn't expect that because of where they were in their careers.
Yeah. Yeah, you'd have expected that someone would still be shiny, happy.
Yeah, shiny and new.
Anything is
maybe
possible.
Maybe that's my optimism.
All right, so if it's not an age thing, then it's a mindset thing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm a big believer. It's all about your mind, how you see things, how you view the world. Do you view it from an optimistic lens, pessimistic lens? What's gone for you? So I definitely think it's to do with mindset.
Wow, okay. So we thought it might be a useful focus for this month, do a 4-part focus on you and your mind. With the goal to have a look at how do we keep ourselves confident, and that's that self-belief. So confidence and self-belief is the kind of the underlying focus towards this. So we thought it might be quite good to, just for the first bit, for the first one, refocusing towards an optimistic mindset. Yeah. So as always, let's do a little bit of kind of definition first of all. So what is optimism? What does it mean to have an optimistic mindset? And why do humans have this optimism? So what's the purpose of it?
Yeah, I think that's really fascinating because not everybody has it right in the worlds that we live in, from an animal to a human species. But optimism, I think the one that I really enjoyed looking at is that it's actually, I suppose, a mental attitude, as we said, characterized by that hope and confidence in success and a positive future. And on the whole, optimists generally tend to view any hardships or challenges as learning opportunities, and they're only temporary setbacks. It's not going to last forever, and that tomorrow will probably be better. So it is all about that I suppose the approach, your mental state, the way you look at the world can have a massive impact on that as well, and create that optimistic outlook rather than doom and gloom and pessimistic.
Yeah, I can see it now. As you were saying, doom and gloom. That's Eeyore, isn't it? So
yes,
it's the Eeyore mindset.
Eeyore or Tigger.
Eeyore or Tigger. Oh my gosh. I could see it now, this sort of doom and gloom,
Oh, yeah.
and it's sort of, and we've all of us got that potential to either go one way or the other when you look at,
Mm,
a setback or a challenge. You mentioned about the kind of animal kingdom, and I think it's always really fascinating to look at, well, actually, why do us humans have this ability to be optimistic or pessimistic, that ability to perceive a scenario, whereas
yeah.
everyone else on the planet is just kind of executing. There might be some instinct behind it, but not a 3-page plan that says, how can we put a continuous improvement program in place, which is optimism on a page almost, isn't it? We need
Yeah.
to make things better. So what is it about humans that have this? And of course, with that, then you have a look at the evolutionary benefits of it.
Mhm.
No one would bother building cities, investing in fuel pipelines, bothering to go up to the moon if there wasn't some kind of drive that says, we can do things today that make something better for tomorrow.
Mm.
So I think there's something though that's called the optimism bias. Is that what it is?
Yes.
So
Yes.
optimism bias. So what's all that about? Where could
Yeah.
it potentially run us into some risks? This ability to be optimistic. Where might
Yeah.
there be some downsides?
Yeah, I think some of the downsides of that, if we have that, is that excessive optimism can lead to people maybe overestimating the likelihood that they can experience good things while avoiding the bad things. And it suggests that sometimes that optimism bias means that people underestimate the risk of experiencing negative outcomes. So it can engage sometimes in maybe risky behaviors that actually then increase their chances of having a bad outcome. So it's a bit, yeah. So it's a bit like, am I super just looking for all the rainbows in the world and not really looking at what's in front of me? And what that impact that has normally when people are doing that, everything's through rose tinted glasses, so they're potentially not seeing what's really in front of them. Which maybe if they did, they'd be able to explore that to understand it, to then give themselves the opportunity to work out the better side of it rather than just always focusing on the stars and the rainbows, because life isn't like that.
Mm. The in terms of how we can bring about an optimistic mindset, I was doing some research on this, looking at how much of this is nature versus nurture.
Mm,
So, are people born with an optimistic mindset, or do you develop it in kind of how you're raised and some of
mm,
those early experiences, and particularly in the world of work, how our early employment experiences kind of shape our
true.
perception on, for example, setback. And interesting, Debs, twin studies apparently. So often twin studies are used to work out, are we born with it, or we kind of, is it
Yeah.
nurture? And apparently 30 to 40% of whether someone is going to have an optimistic mindset is down to their genes, but
Oh,
the
wow.
60 to 70% is nurture. So actually, even if you don't consider yourself a particularly optimistic person with your in terms of how you were raised,
Hmm.
then actually at any point we have a choice to bring a bit more intention to it. And I know you're
Mm,
really hot on that, about whether
yeah.
it's an individual thinking about their employment options if they've just been made redundant, whether that is a team looking at a seemingly impossible task that they've got to do
Yeah.
with limited resources or lots of vacancies. If we look at that challenge, do we see a space or a hole in front of us?
Yeah, that's true.
What might that mean? And even if you might not historically have looked at seeing it as a cup half full,
Hmm.
then actually we can bring that cup half empty,
Yeah.
the other way around. We can bring that perception through
Mm,
choice by
yeah.
applying that optimistic mindset, even if we have to plan for it a little bit.
I think, and as you said earlier, yeah, I'm always banging on. We always have a choice. That's the one thing that you really can't take away from us is our freedom of choice. So therefore, having that ability to go, okay, it might be crap at the moment, and things might feel hard, and it feels like you're pushing, blooming stones and rocks uphill. But actually, it's that ability to just think, okay, so what's my intent, as you said. I can carry on autopilot and keep going around and around and around and having that same negative narrative happen. Or I can just choose to see it differently. What's the opportunity this is giving me? What is the lesson that I'm taking? And I'm a huge believer in finding that opportunity. There will be one. You just sometimes have to dig a bit deeper. You have to be kind, I think, to yourself, and you have to just recognize the things that you can do rather than the things that you can't do. So, you know, having that belief, I think we talked about this on a workshop today. Actually, we were running about how do we inspire our team to believe that, to make the possible, the impossible possible. And a couple of them came out about you have to believe in where you're heading. You have to have a bit of energy around what the future can look like or could look like, and that you can succeed in the face of life's challenges, because we can if we want to. So for me, it's always that choice that says, do you want to make the change? Okay, yes, it's hard, and we've all been through, crazy worlds and crazy lives, right, Law? But if we just stay stuck because, oh, woe is me comes into play, we wouldn't be doing what we were doing today, right? We'd be stuck in our ways, a bit like Panda, as you would always say. But actually, for having that optimistic mindset, one gives you the confidence to know that you can because you've got the skills, but it also means that it's an opportunity to learn. And if you're saying to yourself that affirmation, actually, I know the outcome will be all right in the end. It's that I can do this because I've done it before and I'm still here. I've learned from it. So therefore, how do I suppose, show some gratitude for my life as well? Sometimes it's really hard and you just think, what am I grateful for today? And I would say sometimes it's the fact you just got out of bed, and you're still breathing. Sometimes that's what we just have to start to build upon to be able to then create a space where we're looking to make the most of what life is chucking our way, because we can if we want to.
Love it, Debs. Let's have a bit of a deeper dive on some things that can help maintain an optimistic mindset if you're surrounded by a lot of Eeyores at the moment. So let's have a deeper dive looking at actually how can we protect and preserve our own optimism if that's not the same level of service we're getting from those with whom we're working alongside, for example.
I love that. Yeah, let's that's such a good thing to think about, actually, Law, isn't it? Because we don't always give ourselves time to consider that. So what would you suggest?
So I think, first of all, well, as you always say, notice, choose and act. So notice what's going on. And I guess it's reminding ourselves that if this conversation is declining and taking a downward, quite depressing spiral, what might, in a parallel universe, the opposite be?
Yeah.
So if it all just looks like, what's the point in doing anything? Because all we're doing is surrounded by these tasks we haven't done, then could you be that one person in that meeting that says, should we just flip it for a moment? What are some of the things we have done?
Yeah.
So amongst all of the things, it can feel a bit grueling. And even the most Tigger of us can think after a while, actually, what is the point of doing all of this? Because nothing seems to be getting better.
Yeah.
And just reminding yourself of, well, actually, in a parallel universe, could you flip that question and ask, what are we then achieving? So I think a couple of bits of language can be useful just to prepare in your own mind if you feel like there's a lot of doom and gloom conversations around you and it's impacting your ability to be optimistic. A star story, developing a bit of a star story in your mind. What have been a recent situation, a task we had to focus on, the actions that we took and the result, coming up with a couple of star stories. We've talked about it before, but it's such an efficient way to just capture what might be a fleeting example of success, but being able to capture it and then advertise it and talk about it.
Good shout.
And the benefit of having a couple of star stories is, number one, well, that's a bit of a happier commute rather than thinking all the things you haven't done yet.
Yeah.
Using that time to go, actually, what have we done?
Yeah.
And then let's just start off a team meeting reflecting on what have we achieved. So we know loads of common takeaway themes at the moment when we talk about this, Debs, is I'm going to make sure I start my team meetings asking everyone to bring an example of what they have done, what they're pleased with that working week. Because the impact that bit of communication has is you never know the onward effects that might have on someone's working day. So a bit of research that always stuck out for me, Debs, and I know you and I have sort of talked about this quite a bit, but it's where they looked at what impact does watching certain programs have on your driving behaviour.
Yes.
So imagine you've got one half of the group who watch lots of pictures and read lots of articles about lottery winnings and a hole in one on the golf course, all these really luck based things reading. And then other people had to read stuff about incidents and accidents and risks and all these things that have kind of gone wrong. And what they then looked at is there was a significant difference in the speed in which people drove around that circuit after, because we are really influenced by the information we've received just before we go and do a task. So let's say you've got a team meeting or a one-to-one with someone. What we talk about at that morning meeting does have an influence over how you feel about your day ahead. And it
True.
might impact your risk taking, or it
Yep.
might sort of think, oh, I won't phone them, I'll just send them an email, because you're feeling a little bit kind of Eeyore in your mind. So I think there's a couple of things. Have a couple of star stories tucked up your sleeve that reminds you of all the things you have done, and you can savor it with others as well. And the benefit of that is it just reminds everyone that as amongst all the doom and gloom, there are some things that we are able to do as well. And that can then
Yeah.
have an upward uplift on other
Yes.
people's mood around you as well.
Yeah, I really love that law. I love the star stories anyway because they make you shine and sparkle, right? But I think actually what it does, I suppose, if you're looking for the opportunities within that, and if there is some negative events going on, um, they sort of just roll away a lot easier, right? Because the events of what you have done in the past and what you have achieved and what you have got over and all of that thing affirm your belief in yourself. So therefore, you do know that you have the ability to make good things happen. Um, and you do know that there is some goodness in life because of your past experiences. And if that's why we always say, keep a smile file, of all the things that you hear or the things that you get sent because somebody recognizes what you have done for them, it's just holding on to those so that when you're maybe on a bit of a Eeyore day, you can actually just pull out your smile file and just remind yourself, as you said, of what you have done and what you can do. And I love the fact that the more, I suppose, the more we can become more mindful of this and catch our moods, as we say, because they creep up on us before we've even realised they've smacked us in the face, and suddenly we're wondering why we're sitting there eating like 12 packets of crisps or something. But it's that be mindful of what's around you and how am I feeling? So connecting with the feeling, where is it sitting? Is that a good feeling? Do I feel a bit this? So questioning yourself. And I know we can't always do that, Law. I do get that. But the more mindful we become about how our bodies are reacting in that moment, what language are we using, what are we, who are we surrounding ourselves with as well, I think, can have a massive impact on whether we see the world through optimism or pessimistic lens. So I think that's really, really important. And writing down how you really feel positive emotions and create your own smile file.
Mm. And for any skeptics out there, there
Mm,
is a bucket load of research that looks at the physical changes that
yes.
happen when there is either a belief that this is going to work for me, the
Mm,
placebo effect, or is going to harm me, the
yeah.
nocebo effect. So for any skeptics thinking, oh yeah, all right, well, I'll think about my mindset when I've got time to. Actually, there's a load of research that shows there is a real clear mind and body link between,
Yes.
if I think this sugar pill that contains no dynamic active ingredient is going to take my headache away, miraculously I feel better. If I
Yep.
think this piece of food is a bit gone off and tastes funny, guess
Mm,
what? You will start to feel a little bit queasy after. The power of the mind over body, so the
mm,
placebo and the nocebo effect, whether I'm optimistic or pessimistic about how this quarterly conference is going to go, is
mhm.
going to impact right from the start about whether I have, a kind of a doom and gloom perspective when I listen
Yep.
to that first session, or whether
Mm,
whether it kind of uplifts me. So there's such an interesting link, I think, between that mind and body. And what
yes.
that might mean from our everyday interactions is, did did this did this challenging day at work, do I still feel fired up, or
Mm,
do I feel just a bit like a damp squib, where I'm
yep.
feeling a bit ground down? And that's where I think there's such a link, as you were saying, about between an optimistic mindset and well-being.
Mm,
Actually, I have a good self-image, high self-worth. I deserve to have a good life, and I deserve the world to be able to give me some good things to look forward to. And
mm,
all that thing has a bit of a knock-on effect, which then means someone might go, oh, I am going to go for that promotion.
yep.
And then it starts a chain of events. And that
Yeah.
that background thinking can then mean someone can either go, oh no, I won't do it.
Yeah.
People like me don't do things like that. And it's just such a shame, Debs, when you have these
Mm,
brilliant people who just the nerve to push forward. They
yeah.
need more optimism bias,
Yes.
because there's
They
plenty
do.
of people out there who aren't particularly good that have
Yeah.
got a very
Yeah.
optimistic view of our skills.
Yeah, that's very true. Is that being driven by ego rather than a grateful mind? I don't know. Maybe
Yeah.
it is, maybe it isn't. But I think that linking it back into our well-being, researchers have shown that, the more we practice are proactive in looking for what the good could be, or what's the opportunity, or what's my choice in this matter, it does help with our managing of our stress levels as well, and our tolerance levels, and doing something for us that's going to help us, because we're worth it, as you said. So why would we not? But I suppose it's the awareness bit, isn't it? So the more we understand ourselves, the better we are at hopefully looking after ourselves. So, and we know we can. And I think that's the bit I always look for. There is an opportunity in everything. And as I said earlier, you just have to maybe hunt for it a little bit more. But I suppose that links me into my call to action from today, because as we know, Law, right, it's just a nice chat unless there's some action. I think my action would be look for the opportunity. If it feels tough at this moment, take a breath, sit back and just go, but what else is there? What could be there? Let me have a look at what is the good within this. And you will find it. It might be something, it might be somebody, it might be your environment, it might be the animals you surround yourself with. There might be just that little glimmer of hope. That opportunity is glimmering there, and you just need to light it up and fire it up and go.
Oh, I love it, Debs. If the humans keep letting you down, get a cat or a dog.
Yeah, they're always optimistic, right?
Yeah. Just as an interject, because I think it's nice to have, it's nice to have three things to focus on, Debs.
Oh, yeah, I forgot the three.
I'm obsessive about the three things. But I was delighted when I stumbled across Martin Seligman, who is the founding father of positive psychology movement.
Yeah.
But he's got something that he calls the 3 Ps. And this is just something to watch out for, which can help take us away from an optimistic mindset, because it can just seep in and really kind of sit there. So the 3 Ps, the things to watch out for, is to not overly personalize the stuff that happens. Sometimes good things happen, bad things happen to really great people. Yeah. And that's just the way it is. So to not take it overly personally, because it can then bring on feelings of guilt and shame and all that kind of stuff. So to not overly personalize, to view it as not all pervasive. So just because one thing has happened, for example, in one aspect of your work life, it doesn't mean your whole life is ruined as a result of that. So that to not make it feel like it's all pervasive, to compartmentalize it a little bit can just help sort of steady. And to view it not as permanence. So it's not a permanent state. This too shall pass. And actually some things that can cause you sleepless nights now actually might just be one of those rich stories, at some point in the future. So I think those 3 Ps could be really useful as a way to help someone else who may be feeling a little bit down at heart. So my share the secret would be, find someone, a colleague you haven't caught up with for a while, that makes you smile. And if you do happen to have a chance conversation with someone that is feeling a little bit Eeyore, then 3 questions that could just help. So what has gone well this week? What could be something that could help move things forward? And if there's one thing that you think could be something you could learn from this experience, what might that be? And then that just keeps us always kind of moving forward, because how we feel today is not necessarily how we're going to feel tomorrow. And that optimism bias, Debs, do you know that it saddens me that there are people out there in the dawn of their careers who aren't feeling that same buzz and that optimism than maybe previous generations have. Because you need energy for the ups and downs that happens in your work life. So
you do.
I think there's an opportunity for people in different generations maybe to role model, what does an optimistic bias look like?
Yeah.
What are some of those positive focus questions? Because what life shows you, I think the older you get, is there'll always be stuff. There'll always be setbacks.
Yes.
In 1923, Debs, there was an article about how in 2023, this man who was key in the invention of electricity, he believed that in 2023 we'd have spotless cities and we'd all be working 4-day weeks.
4-day weeks. Well, that's true.
Weeks. Yeah. 4 hours a day, 4 days a week.
4 hours a day.
Even more dramatic than that. Yes. Such was the belief that electricity was completely going to revolutionise the workplace. Yeah. Cut to 2023, everyone's sitting there working on their phones in bed.
Yeah, exactly. Waiting for the AI and the robots to take over. No, it's not going to happen. We still need humans, right?
We still need humans, absolutely, who have got an optimism that, you know, we everything we do can make things better. So, Debs, thank you so much. Time to just pause each week and have a think about some of these soft skills that enable us to deal with the hard things, I think can be a real game changer. So I know there are a lot of people who are using our podcast episodes now as part of their continuing professional development. So you're not alone. These are some key themes. And in the first one this month, this is the first in our confidence and self-belief focus. And really looking forward to picking up with a couple of other topics later.
Definitely. Me too. I've loved it. Thanks, Law. I feel really uplifted. So I appreciate you today. Thank you.
Keep bouncing, Tigger.
I will. Boing.
And if the humans keep dragging you down, by a donkey.
Hey, just as a reminder. Love that. Thanks, Law.
Have a brilliant week, Deb.
You too, lovely. Love you. Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.